Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a good afternoon to all of you. So today the topic is about the first topic of today is the roles of the school in society. There are few points that we need to know what are the roles that any school plays in our society. So first and foremost, we go to school because it helps us to get some knowledge, to sharpen our skills, and also the way of thinking. So number one, the role of school in society is actually how the school is able to change way of life, thinking, and technology. So over time, from traditional way of life to more modernized way of life, that we can see what is happening today with all the gadgets, for example, with all the purchasing power, the economic activities, and so on. In tandem with change of life, also thinking and technology also keep on updated. Yeah, there are of course a lot of differences between nowadays and those days due to education in modernization, education transformation, uh, which is like online learning, social media. Yeah, it can happen in both factors, which are internal and external. For example, external forces, like how we want to improve our socio-economic status. Yeah, and then for external forces like globalization, internationalization. So all these things help us or help the education to play its roles in our part of our society. The second one is to modernize a society physically and thoughts. Yeah, we need to, for example, send our children abroad to pursue their study. Because those days before independence, the policies of the nation were actually controlled by those people who were educated from the Western countries like the USA, the United Kingdom, and so on. So therefore, the early system of education in Malaysia actually followed the Western system of education, so that even now also we do have SPM, which is equivalent to O levels, ordinary level, or STPM is equivalent to advanced level. Right. So number three here, the role that the school plays in society is provide education to workforce, which we have discussed this earlier. As the foundation of multiracial society, because as we know that Malaysian is a multiracial society, so we need to have a unity to all of the races in Malaysia, as well as to build discipline among citizens. Yeah, so there are several general functions, which are education, school as the channel of culture and knowledge. That means we go to school, we mix around with different people, different background, different socio-economic background, and we learn the culture, Malay, Indian, or Chinese. Yeah. And number two, also to sharpen skills and personalities, that the school help to build each and every one personalities. And number three is belief and value, that when we go to school, we also learn the belief and the value, moral support, and from the teachers and from the school. Schools also prepare students to the actual world and working world in the future, and youth and teenagers and children guidance, as well as peer relationship. So these are in general functions of education at school. Number four is social mobility. Mobility means mobile. That means move. Yeah? So social mobility refers to individual or group that you can move up. Yeah, it can be vertical, it can be horizontal. That means your class, or for instance, from the lower class of people, you can move on to, for example, middle class of people through education. So social mobility, we can see two different ways. One is before independence, we can see that it was very hard for vertical mobility. That means you move from one class to the upper class to take place due to the system of colonial. So we were controlled by British those days. So it was difficult for us to have a vertical mobility. Why they do so? Why they did do so? Why they did so? Because they wanted to preserve the racial stratification, meaning that they wanted to divide and rule. So so this will help them to control the society easier during British colonization. So authority provided budget to English schools more compared to Malay schools. So these are actually again the strategy of British those days. And parents did not afford or could not afford to pay for their children's schooling because those days, if you are rich, you are able to send your children. If you are poor, you are unable to send your children there. Okay, so having said that, as a result, most of Malays working as farmers, Indian working in the estates. Yeah? About Chinese, among them, it was more toward horizontal. That means from left to right mobility, because the mobility happened among themselves. Those there were no opportunity for them to work with British government, because they are unable to have a vertical mobility. Vertical, that means from bottom to the move up to the middle class of people. So after independence, 1957, there were more working opportunities for Malaysians because some of the position had been taken by locals, which those positions were controlled by colonials before. Yeah. And number five, school also play their roles as agent of social control, which in society, of course, we need control our citizens. Yeah, for example, like this MRO, the police, the army, they have to take care of the procedure. You are unable to go out from your house. You have to stay at home, stay safe, and so on. So they have to follow the instructions from the government. So, for example, agent of social control at curriculum in school, in each subject, students were taught to follow rules that have been determined by the school. So that means whatever rituals, whatever discipline, manners or activities you have to follow, which have been decided by school. In class, for example, teachers should ensure that their students follow instruction very well, with rewards and punishment as the result of their wrongdoing and good doing what they do.